Human protected alien nursery from toxic gas. Breeding princese offers genetic legacy * Marcus Chen floated quietly in the observation deck of Research Station Alpha 7, watching the purple and gold planet Kepler 4 to be spin slowly below him. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he barely noticed. The atmospheric scanner in his hands beeped softly as it collected data from the planet's surface. Same readings as always, Marcus muttered to himself, checking the numbers on his screen. Nothing interesting down there. For 3 months, Marcus had been stationed on this remote research platform, studying the empty planet below. The Galactic Survey had classified Kepler 4 to be as lifeless but stable, perfect for testing new atmospheric equipment, but boring for a curious engineer. Like Marcus, he was about to pack up his equipment when something made him pause. A small blip appeared on his scanner. Just for a second, Marcus frowned and ran the scan again. "That's weird," he said, leaning closer to the screen. The readings showed a tiny pocket of different air composition deep underground. It was so small that most people would have missed it completely. But Marcus had always been good at noticing tiny details that others overlooked. He ran the scan a 3rd time. The reading was still there, a small area with oxygen levels that didn't match the rest of the planet, according to the official surveys. Kepler 4 had never supported life, so what was creating that oxygen pocket? Marcus looked around the empty research station. His supervisor wouldn't be back for another week. The other crew members were all busy with their own projects. No one would miss him if he took a quick trip down to the surface. Just a fast look. Marcus told himself as he headed toward the shuttle bay. "I'll be back before dinner." 20 minutes later, Marcus was piloting the small research shuttle through Kepler 4b's thick atmosphere. The planet's surface was covered in rocky hills and deep valleys. According to his scanner, the strange oxygen reading was coming from somewhere in the northern mountain range. As Marcus flew closer to the coordinates, he noticed something unusual about one particular hillside. While the rest of the area was covered in the planet's natural purple rock, this hill had a section that looked slightly different. The color was just a shade darker, and the surface seemed to smooth, artificial. Marcus whispered, his heart beating faster. "That's definitely artificial." He landed his shuttle in a flat area nearby and put on his environmental suit. Even though the planet's air wasn't toxic to humans, it was too thin to breathe safely. As he walked toward the strange hillside, his equipment detected a very faint energy signature coming from underground. Marcus spent an hour searching the hillside. Before he found it, a hidden entrance barely visible between 2 large rocks. The opening was just big enough for a person to crawl through. His scanner showed that the oxygen readings were much stronger here. "Hello?" Marcus called into the dark opening. "Is anyone down there?" Only silence answered him. Marcus checked his suit systems one more time, then squeezed through the entrance. The tunnel was longer than he expected. After crawling for several minutes, Marcus emerged into a huge underground chamber that took his breath away. The ceiling stretched high above him, covered in a soft, glowing blue light. But it wasn't the size of the chamber that amazed him. It was what filled it. Hundreds of crystal pods lined the floor in perfect rows. Each pod was about the size of a person, made of clear, shimmering material that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. Inside each pod, Marcus could see a small, delicate form floating in some kind of liquid. "Babies," Marcus whispered in wonder. "They're babies." The creatures inside the pods didn't look like any species Marcus had ever seen. They had long, graceful limbs and faces that seemed almost elfin. Their skin had a silver-blue color that sparkled in the chamber's soft light. As Marcus walked between the rows of pods, he noticed that each one was connected to a complex network of tubes and wires. Machines hummed quietly in the background, maintaining the environment inside each crystal chamber. It was clearly some kind of nursery, but for what species? A soft sound made Marcus turn around. At the far end of the chamber, near a bank of control panels, a figure was moving slowly. Marcus hurried over and found a tall, elegant being slumped against the wall. She was clearly the same species as the babies in the pods, but fully grown. Her silver blue skin was pale, and she moved as if every step caused her pain. Long, flowing hair that shimmered like starlight fell around her shoulders. She wore what looked like royal clothing, flowing robes decorated with intricate patterns. Who are you?" she asked in perfect English, though her voice was weak and tired. "How did you find this place?" "My name is Marcus Chen," he said, kneeling down beside her. "I'm from the research station in orbit. Are you hurt? Do you need help?" The alien woman looked at him with large, silver eyes that seemed to hold both sadness and surprise. "A human," she whispered. "I never expected. My name is Princess Lyroleth of the Zephyrian people." Zephyrian? Marcus's eyes widened. But the survey said this planet was empty. "The Galactic Registry lists your species as extinct." "Not extinct," Princess Lyroleth said sadly, "but close to it. This is our last nursery, the final hope for our people." She gestured weakly toward the rows of crystal pods. 347 young ones, waiting to be born. Marcus looked around the chamber with new understanding. "You're alone here, aren't you? Taking care of all of them by yourself?" Princess Lyroleth nodded slowly. "For 8 months now, the life support systems are failing. One by one. I have been using my own life energy to keep the nursery functioning." But she closed her eyes. "I don't know how much longer I can continue," as if her words had triggered something. Warning lights began flashing throughout the chamber. Several of the crystal pods flickered, their inner light growing dimmer. "What's happening?" Marcus asked. Jumping to his feet, Princess Lyroleth struggled to stand, her face filled with panic. "The primary filtration system," she gasped. "It's failing again. The toxic gases from our homeworld's volcanoes are getting stronger. If they reach this chamber..." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Marcus understood immediately. Whatever was threatening these baby aliens, it was happening right now, and Princess Lyroleth was too weak to handle it alone. Marcus looked at the hundreds of innocent lives. Depending on the failing machinery around him, he thought about Princess Lyroleth, who had been fighting alone for months to save her people's future. "Tell me what needs to be done," Marcus said firmly. "I'm here to help." Princess Lyroleth looked at Marcus with surprise and hope mixed together in her silver eyes. "You would help us, but you don't even know what you're risking." The warning lights continued flashing around the chamber, casting red shadows across the rows of crystal pods. Marcus could hear machinery working harder somewhere in the walls, making stress grinding sounds. "Tell me what's wrong," Marcus said, pulling out his portable scanner. "I'm an engineer. Maybe I can figure something out." Princess Lyroleth struggled to her feet, leaning heavily against the control panel. Her fingers moved across the strange symbols that covered the display screens. "Our homeworld, Zephyros Prime, has been dying for the past year. The volcanic systems that once gave us life have turned against us." Images appeared on the screens around them. Pictures of a beautiful planet with crystal cities and flowing silver rivers. But the recent images showed something terrible. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the once clear rivers had turned black. The volcanoes now produced a gas called sulfuron. Princess Lyroleth continued, her voice growing weaker. "It's invisible and has no smell, but it's deadly to our people. Even tiny amounts can kill a Zephyrian in minutes." Marcus studied the chemical readings on the screens. The gas was unlike anything he had seen before, but he noticed something important. This gas, it says here that it's harmless to most other species. It only affects Zephyrian biology. "Yes," Princess Lyroleth nodded sadly. "We are the only ones who die from it. The gas is spread across our entire world. My people had to evacuate to other planets, but," she gestured toward the crystal pods, "the young ones cannot survive in space. They need special conditions to develop properly." Marcus walked over to examine one of the pods more closely. The baby inside looked peaceful, floating in the glowing liquid. "So you brought them here, to this safe planet." "We thought it was safe," Princess Lyroleth said, "for months. This nursery was perfect. The children grew strong and healthy. But 3 weeks ago, the gas started appearing here too." Marcus's scanner beeped as he pointed it around the chamber. Sure enough, he detected very small traces of the deadly gas in the air. "How is it getting here?" Kepler 4b doesn't have volcanoes. Princess Lyroleth touched another control, and new images appeared. They showed Zephyros Prime and Kepler 4b in the same solar system, connected by streams of cosmic dust and particles. The solar winds carry the gas through space, she explained. It reaches this planet in very small amounts, but those amounts are growing stronger every day. Our filtration systems have been working constantly to keep it out of the nursery. Marcus looked around at the humming machinery built into the chamber walls. And the systems are breaking down. Yes, we never designed them to work this hard for this long. Each day, more filters fail. More purifiers stop working. Princess Lyroleth's voice was filled with exhaustion. I have been using my own life energy to power the failing systems, but I cannot continue much longer. Your own life energy? Marcus asked with concern. Princess Lyroleth showed him her hands. Marcus could see that her silver-blue skin was much paler around her palms, and strange patterns of light moved under her skin. Zephyrians can transfer our life force into our technology, but it drains us completely. I have been doing this for weeks. Marcus realized why she looked so weak and tired. She was literally giving her life to keep the babies alive. How long? Do you think the systems will last? Princess Lyroleth checked the displays again. Perhaps to days, maybe less, when the filters fail completely. The sulfuron gas will flood this chamber. All of the young ones will die within minutes. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. 347 innocent lives, depending on failing machinery and one exhausted guardian. What about calling for help? Surely your people can send rescue ships. I have been trying to contact them for weeks, Princess Lyroleth said sadly, but our communication systems here are limited. The nearest Zephyrian ship is at least 3 weeks away, even at maximum speed. Marcus reached for his own communication device, but remembered with a sinking heart what had happened during his landing. My shuttle's communication array was damaged when I came through your atmosphere. I can't call my research station either. The two of them stood in silence for a moment, watching the warning lights flash across the chamber. The situation seemed impossible. Too many systems failing, too little time, and no way to get help. But Marcus had never been the type to give up easily. He walked over to the nearest bank of failing equipment and opened his toolkit. Show me how your filtration systems work. Marcus, you don't understand, Princess Lyroleth said. This technology is beyond your species level, even. I don't fully understand how to repair it. Maybe, Marcus replied, already pulling covers off the machinery. But I understand the basic idea. You're filtering bad air and making it clean, right? I've worked with air filtration systems before. As Marcus examined the alien technology, he was amazed by how advanced it was. The systems used energy patterns he had never seen before, and the materials were unlike anything humans had developed. But underneath all the advanced features, he could see the basic principles at work. This is incredible, Marcus said, his excitement growing. Your people are thousands of years ahead of us in technology, but the core concepts are the same as human systems. Princess Lyroleth watched him work with growing interest. You can understand it, some of it, Marcus admitted, not the advanced parts. But I can see where the problems are. He pointed to several areas where the machinery was glowing red instead of blue. These filters are completely blocked. These power connections are loose. And this whole section has some kind of energy overflow. Suddenly, another alarm started sounding. More warning lights began flashing, and several of the crystal pods flickered dangerously. The secondary purification system just failed, Princess Lyroleth said, panic in her voice. We've lost another 20% of our filtering capacity. Marcus looked around the chamber with new determination. The babies in their crystal pods were depending on him now. Princess Lyroleth was depending on him. He might be just a human engineer with basic tools, but sometimes basic tools and human stubbornness were exactly what the situation needed, okay? Marcus said, rolling up his sleeves. Let's get to work. Show me everything. For the next 2 hours, Marcus crawled through access panels and studied the alien machinery with intense focus. Princess Lyroleth watched him work. amazement growing in her silver eyes with each passing minute. "This is impossible," she whispered, as Marcus pulled a piece of equipment from his shuttle's engine and began connecting it to the Zephyr infiltration system. Those two technologies should not be compatible. Marcus looked up from his work, his face covered in sweat and machine oil. Maybe they're not supposed to be compatible, but sometimes the best solutions come from combining things that don't normally go together. He had already made 3 successful repairs using parts from his shuttle, his survival kit, and even his lunch container. The metal from his food storage had the right conductivity to replace a burned-out component in the air purifier. His shuttle's backup power cell was now running 2 of the failed filtering units. "Where I come from," Marcus said, returning to his work, "we call this jury-rigging. It means making something work with whatever materials you have available." Princess Lyroleth moved closer to watch him work. "But how do you know it will function? You're combining technologies that are thousands of years apart in development." Marcus smiled as he tightened a connection between human copper wire and Zephyrian crystal conduits. "Because the universe follows the same basic rules everywhere. Energy flows, matter reacts. Pressure builds and releases. Your people might have fancier ways of doing things, but the physics are the same." As if to prove his point, the jury-rigged system hummed to life. The red warning lights in that section changed to yellow, then slowly turned blue as the purification system began working again. "Incredible," Princess Lyroleth breathed. "In just 2 hours, you've repaired systems that our best engineers said we're beyond fixing." "Different doesn't always mean better," Marcus replied, moving to the next broken component. "Sometimes a simple solution works just as well as a complicated one." While Marcus worked on the main filtration array, he began telling Princess Lyroleth stories about human history. He talked about early humans surviving ice ages with nothing but simple tools and determination. He described how entire cities had been rebuilt after earthquakes, floods, and other disasters. "My grandmother lived through a terrible earthquake when she was young," Marcus said as he spliced together power cables. "Her whole town was destroyed, but the people didn't give up. They worked together and built everything back stronger than before." Princess Lyroleth listened with fascination. "Your people faced such hardships, yet you continued to survive and grow. How do you maintain hope in such difficult circumstances?" Marcus paused in his work to look at the rows of crystal pods around them. "I think it's because we understand that life is precious. When something beautiful and innocent needs protection, humans will find a way to provide it, no matter how impossible it seems, even for children who are not your own species." Princess Lyroleth asked softly. "Especially then," Marcus replied firmly. "Taking care of others, even strangers, is what makes us human." By the 4th hour, Marcus had restored 60% of the nursery's filtration capacity. He had also rigged up an early warning system using his shuttle's sensors to detect any sudden increases in sulfuron gas levels. The immediate crisis seemed to be under control. Princess Lyroleth was looking much better too, with the failing systems now working properly. She no longer needed to drain her own life energy to keep them running. Color was returning to her pale skin. "You have given us hope again," she said gratefully. "But Marcus, these repairs are only temporary. My people's technology is designed to last for centuries. Your improvised solutions might work for days or weeks, but I know," Marcus nodded, checking his work on the atmospheric processors. "We need a permanent fix, but sometimes temporary solutions buy you enough time to find the real answer." As he spoke, Marcus was already planning his next moves. He had identified the 3 most critical systems that needed major repairs. With parts from his shuttle's life support system, he thought he could create more stable connections. It would mean stranding himself on the planet until rescue came. But that was a small price to pay for saving 347 lives. "Princess Lyroleth," Marcus said, "I'm going to need to cannibalize my shuttle's life support system for the next round of repairs. That means I won't be able to leave the planet until help arrives." "Marcus, no," Princess Lyroleth protested. "You cannot trap yourself here for our sake. What if something goes wrong?" Then we'll solve that problem when we come to it, Marcus replied with a grin. That's another thing about humans. We're really good at solving problems as they come. Up, Princess Lyroleth was about to respond when suddenly the ground beneath their feet began to shake. It started as a gentle vibration, but quickly grew stronger. The crystal pods clinked together as they swayed on their support stance. What's happening? Marcus asked, grabbing onto a support beam as the shaking intensified. Seismic activity, Princess Lyroleth said, alarm in her voice. But this planet is supposed to be geologically stable. The shaking grew violent. Several of the smaller pieces of equipment fell from their mounting brackets. Warning alarms began sounding throughout the chamber as systems were jolted out of alignment. Marcus watched in horror as his carefully repaired connections began to spark and fail. The vibrations were undoing hours of delicate work in a matter of seconds. The main power core, Princess Lyroleth shouted over the noise of the quake. Something's wrong with the main power core. At the far end of the chamber, the large crystalline structure that powered the entire nursery was flickering erratically. Cracks appeared in its surface as the seismic activity continued. If that power core failed, all of Marcus's repairs would be useless. The earthquake lasted for nearly 2 minutes before finally stopping. In the sudden silence that followed, both Marcus and Princess Lyroleth could hear new sounds, the hiss of gas leaks, and the grinding of damaged machinery. Marcus's atmospheric sensors began beeping frantically. The readings showed that sulfuron gas was now entering the chamber much faster than before. The seismic activity had damaged the primary barriers that kept the deadly gas out. How long do we have? Marcus asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. Princess Lyroleth checked her readings with shaking hands. At this rate of contamination, perhaps 6 hours before the gas reaches lethal levels. Marcus looked around at all his damaged repairs, at the failing power core, and at the hundreds of innocent lives depending on them. The situation had just gone from difficult to nearly impossible. But as he watched the baby Zephyrians floating peacefully in their crystal pods, completely unaware of the danger surrounding them, Marcus felt something ignite inside him. It was the same feeling his grandmother must have had when she decided to rebuild her town after the earthquake. 6 hours, Marcus said firmly. Then we'd better get to work. Marcus studied the damaged power core through the reinforced viewing window. The massive crystal structure was cracked in 3 places, and dangerous levels of sulfuron gas were pouring through the breaks in the outer chamber walls. His atmospheric readings showed the deadly gas was already filling the maintenance tunnels that led to the core. The power routing system is completely offline, Princess Lyroleth said, checking her instruments with growing panic. Without manual repairs to the core chamber, we cannot restore full power to the filtration systems. Marcus examined the schematics on the display screen. The repair work needed to be done from inside the outer chamber, the very place where the toxic gas was now concentrated. How long would someone need to be in there to fix it? At least 3 hours for a proper repair, Princess Lyroleth replied. But Marcus, that chamber is filled with sulfuron gas at deadly concentrations. Even with protective equipment, no Zephyrian could survive more than a few minutes. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, studying the repair procedures. His environmental suit from the shuttle was designed to handle many different atmospheric conditions, but he wasn't sure if it could protect him from this alien gas for 3 full hours. What about humans? Marcus asked. You said the gas only affects Zephyrian biology. Princess Lyroleth's eyes widened in alarm. Marcus, no, yes. The gas won't poison you directly, but the chamber is also flooded with radiation from the damaged power core. The combination of gas and radiation could damage your equipment if your suit fails. If I don't try, everyone dies anyway, Marcus said simply. He was already walking toward the emergency equipment locker where the heavy-duty work suits were stored. Please, Princess Lyroleth caught his arm. There must be another way. You cannot risk your life for our children. Marcus stopped and looked at her, then at the rows of crystal pods around them. Several of the pods were already showing stress signals as the gas levels in the chamber continued to rise. In a few hours, those innocent babies would start to die, one by one. Princess, Marcus said gently, This is what humans do. When someone needs help, especially someone who can't help themselves, we don't walk away. We don't calculate the risks. We just act. But why? Princess Lyroleth asked, tears forming in her silver eyes. Why would you die for people you've never met? Marcus smiled as he pulled on the heavy work suit. Because that's how we want the universe to be. If we want others to help us when we need it, we have to be willing to help them first. The work suit was designed for Zephyrian physiology, so it didn't fit Marcus perfectly. But he managed to seal it properly and connect his own oxygen supply to the suit's life support systems. His atmospheric scanner went into the suit's utility belt, along with every repair tool he could carry. I'm going to establish a communication link, Marcus said, checking his equipment one final time. Talk me through the repairs step by step. If something goes wrong with my suit, I need you to guide me to the fastest way to complete the job. Princess Lyroleth nodded, though her hands were shaking as she activated the communication system. Marcus, the outer chamber airlock is through that door. Once you enter the contaminated area, you'll have access to the power core maintenance panels. Marcus walked to the heavy airlock door and paused with his hand on the control. Through the window, he could see swirling clouds of the invisible gas mixed with dangerous energy discharges from the damaged crystal core. See you in a few hours, Marcus said, and stepped into the airlock. The outer chamber was like walking inside a storm. Red warning lights flashed constantly, and Marcus could hear the ominous crackling of unstable energy all around him. His suit's sensors showed radiation levels that would have been dangerous for a Zephyrian, but were manageable for human physiology. Marcus, can you hear me? Princess Lyroleth's voice came through his communication system. Loud and clear, Marcus replied, making his way toward the first repair station, beginning work on the primary power coupling. For the next hour, Marcus worked steadily through the repair procedures. Princess Lyroleth guided him through the complex Zephyrian technology, while Marcus applied human engineering principles to solve problems the original designers hadn't anticipated. The secondary power flow is restored, Marcus reported, wiping sweat from his forehead inside his helmet. Moving to the crystal matrix stabilizers. Marcus, your suit's energy readings are dropping faster than expected, Princess Lyroleth warned. The radiation is interfering with your life support systems. Marcus checked his own readings and felt a chill of fear. His oxygen supply was being depleted much faster than normal. The suit's air recycling system was working overtime to filter out the contaminated atmosphere. How much more work is left? Marcus asked, trying to keep his voice steady. 2 more major repairs, Princess Lyroleth replied. But Marcus, at your current consumption rate, you don't have enough oxygen remaining. Marcus looked at the damaged crystal core towering above him. He could see exactly what needed to be done. If he worked quickly and took some shortcuts, he might be able to finish the job before his air ran out. I'm going to modify the repair sequence, Marcus said, already moving toward the crystal matrix housing. Instead of replacing the damaged components, I'm going to bypass them entirely. That's not in the procedures, Princess Lyroleth protested. We don't know if it will work. Sometimes the best solution isn't in the manual, Marcus replied, pulling panels off the crystal housing. Trust me, for the next 90 minutes. Marcus pushed himself harder than he ever had before. He rerouted power flows, bypassed damaged circuits, and created entirely new connection pathways using techniques no Zephyrian engineer had ever imagined. His oxygen warning alarm started beeping when he was halfway through the final repair. Marcus ignored it and kept working. His hands were shaking from exhaustion, and his vision was starting to blur, but he could see the end of the job approaching. Power core stabilization at 60%, Princess Lyroleth reported excitedly. 70%. Marcus, it's working. Almost done, Marcus gasped, making the final connections. Just need to activate the new routing system. He reached for the main power control, but suddenly his legs gave out. Marcus collapsed to the floor of the chamber, his oxygen alarm now screaming constantly. Through his fading vision, he could see the control panel just a few feet away. With the last of his strength, Marcus crawled forward and slammed his hand down on the activation switch. The chamber filled with brilliant blue light as the repaired power core came back to life. Through the communication system, Marcus could hear Princess Lyroleth cheering as all the nursery systems returned to full power. Marcus, Marcus, respond. Princess Lyroleth's voice seemed to come from very far away. Marcus tried to answer, but his oxygen was completely gone as consciousness faded. His last thought was of the baby Zephyrians, safe in their crystal pods. When Marcus woke up, he was lying on a soft surface in the main nursery chamber. Princess Lyroleth was kneeling beside him, her hands glowing with soft silver light as she worked some kind of healing energy into his body. The babies, Marcus whispered weakly, safe. Princess Lyroleth smiled, tears streaming down her face. All of them are safe, thanks to you, as if to prove her words. A soft chimming sound filled the chamber. Marcus turned his head and saw something wonderful. One of the crystal pods was opening. The first baby Zephyrian was ready to be born. Marcus smiled and closed his eyes, finally allowing himself to rest. Marcus spent the next 3 days recovering in the nursery chamber, watched over by Princess Lyroleth and surrounded by the gentle sounds of baby Zephyrians being born. His body was healing from the radiation exposure, but his spirit felt stronger than ever as he had new life entering the world. 18 have hatched so far, Princess Lyroleth said softly, sitting beside Marcus as he watched the latest rival take its first breaths. Each one healthy and perfect, thanks to your courage. The baby Zephyrians were even more beautiful than Marcus had imagined. Their silver blue skin sparkled like starlight, and their large eyes held an ancient wisdom that seemed impossible in such young creatures. When they looked at Marcus, they showed no fear, only curiosity about this strange being who had helped save their lives. They know what you did for them, Princess Lyroleth explained. Zephyrian children are born with a psychic connection to important events that happened before their birth. They understand that you are their protector. On the 4th day, Marcus was strong enough to walk around the chamber again. The nursery was completely transformed from the emergency situation he had found. All the systems were running perfectly, the air was clean and fresh, and the remaining crystal pods glowed with healthy blue light. I need to try to contact my research station, Marcus said. My supervisor will be worried about me by now. Princess Lyroleth smiled mysteriously. That will not be necessary, Marcus. Help is already on the way. Before Marcus could ask what she meant, a soft chimming sound filled the chamber. Princess Lyroleth hurried to her communication console, her face lighting up with joy. A Zephyrian rescue fleet has just entered orbit, she announced happily. They received my emergency beacon 3 days ago and came as quickly as they could. Marcus felt relief wash over him. That's wonderful news. Your people will be able to take proper care of the nursery now, and your people are coming too. Princess Lyroleth added with a smile. I was able to use our long-range communication system to contact your research station Alpha 7. They are sending ships to pick you up over the next few hours. Both rescue fleets arrived on the planet's surface. Marcus watched through the nurseries, viewing screens as elegant Zephyrian ships landed nearby, their crews rushing to help with the remaining babies. His own people arrived shortly after in the familiar bulk of human rescue shuttles. But what surprised Marcus most was who stepped out of the lead Zephyrian ship. It was an elderly Zephyrian wearing robes even more magnificent than Princess Lyroleth's, accompanied by a group of important-looking officials. The High Council of Zephyros has come, Princess Lyroleth whispered in amazement. I have never seen them leave the capital world before. The High Council entered the nursery chamber with great ceremony, but their attention immediately focused on Marcus, the elderly leader, who Princess Lyroleth introduced as Supreme Counselor Velthus, approached Marcus with deep respect. Marcus Chen of Earth, Supreme Counselor Velthus said in a voice that carried centuries of wisdom. We have come to witness the miracle that Princess Lyroleth has described to us. You saved 347 lives without any hope of reward. I did what anyone would do, Marcus replied modestly. The babies needed help. No, Supreme Counselor Velthus shook his head slowly. Not anyone would do this. In all our long history, we have never encountered such selfless courage from a member of another species. The Supreme Counselor gestured to his fellow council members, who stepped forward carrying an ornate crystal case. Inside the case was a small, glowing crystal that pulsed with inner light. Marcus Chen, Supreme Counselor Valethus, continued formally. The High Council of Zephyros hereby grants you the title of Gene Keeper, the highest honor our people can bestow upon any being. Marcus looked at Princess Lyroleth in confusion. What does that mean? It means, Princess Lyroleth explained with tears of joy in her eyes, that your genetic code, your life story, and your example of courage will be preserved in our royal archives forever. Every young Zephyrian will learn about Marcus Chen, the human who risked his life to save our children. But more than that, Supreme Counselor Valethus added, your actions have changed how our people view humanity. For centuries, we have remained isolated, believing that other species could not be trusted with our most precious secrets. You have proven us wrong. The crystal in the case pulsed brighter as Supreme Counselor Valethus continued. This biomemory crystal will carry the essence of your heroic actions through all future generations. When Zephyrian children ask about courage, they will learn your story. When they wonder if other species can be trusted, they will remember Marcus Chen. Marcus was overwhelmed by the honor, but he was even more moved by what came next. Princess Lyroleth announced that the Zephyrian High Council had voted to establish a formal alliance with humanity, the first time in over 1,000 years, that the Zephyrians had open diplomatic relations with another species. Your people's capacity for sacrifice and innovation has impressed us greatly, Supreme Counselor Valethus explained. We believe that humans and Zephyrians together can accomplish great things. In the galaxy, Captain Rodriguez, Marcus's supervisor, from Research Station Alpha 7, was equally amazed when she arrived to see what Marcus had accomplished. The discovery of a living Zephyrian population was already big news, but the establishment of an alliance was historic. Marcus, Captain Rodriguez said with pride, when we get back to Earth, you're going to be the most famous engineer in human space. But Marcus was more interested in watching the baby Zephyrians than thinking about fame. 67 had hatched so far, and each one was healthy and strong. The remaining pods would continue opening over the next few weeks, under the care of proper Zephyrian medical teams, as the formal ceremonies concluded. Princess Lyroleth approached Marcus privately. There is something else I want you to know, she said softly. The first baby to hatch, the one you saw being born after you saved us, we have named her Marcella. In honor of your courage. Marcus felt his eyes fill with tears. That's the greatest honor I could ever receive. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the new Zephyrian Human Cultural Exchange Center on Luna Station, watching a group of young Zephyrians learn about human engineering techniques. The alliance between their species had grown stronger every day, leading to amazing advances in science and technology. But what Marcus treasured most was the communication he received each week from Princess Lyroleth, updating him on the progress of the nursery babies. They were all growing strong and healthy, and little Marcella had said her first words, "Thank you." Marcus in perfect English. Marcus smiled as he read the latest message. He had started as a simple engineer taking atmospheric readings, but had ended up changing the course of galactic history. And it all began with a choice to help when help was needed. As he often told the young engineers who came to hear his story, sometimes the most important thing you can do is just be willing to help when someone needs it. The universe has a way of taking care of the rest.